Hello and welcome back to my investigative reporting. So today I have with me, which I should say, amazing Christian Sika, and we're going to be having an interview from the beginning of his life all the way to the things that made him be able to be on the IMDb, to where he's made amazing videos out of what? Anybody know? Anybody in the room know? That's right, an intro. Let's get the intro started, and I'll be right back. All right, and so we are back. So I'm going to add him with me here, but for some reason it took his picture away. His avatar is taken. If I can get him up here. He might be. Are you there?
I am.
Okay, I think it took away your avatar.
I can see
Um,
my avatar.
you can? I can't see it at
Uh-huh.
all. It's a white circle.
Oh, that's great. That's my avatar then. I'm white. I'm a white circle.
You're a white circle. Okay, so we're going to start off with is who are your parents?
My parents are Donald and Elizabeth Sika.
And what what makes them different than most parents?
Well, when we were young, I remember I'm the oldest of 10 kids. And I remember we didn't have very much to eat,
Hmm.
things like that. My dad is a very, very gifted musician. There isn't an instrument he can't play, but he always had this idea. I remember a story my grandpa told me. He's like, you know, he would come with a record underneath his arm. And my grandpa never really believed in any artistic endeavors whatsoever. He said that's not a way to make any money. But my dad was kind of, I don't know. I remember we were sitting on styrofoam crates in our apartment. I think I was about probably 6 or 7 years old. And he had purchased a Macintosh stereo system, not the computer. Any audiophiles out there will know that Macintosh stereos are one of the most expensive and high end stereo systems you could buy. And he loved the Beatles, but we never had any food. And I
Hmm.
remember me, we had this room. I think we were in Tennessee at that point. We had this room we called the coal mine because our mother didn't really do laundry, so she'd stack everything in a closet, and it was like nasty. So I dared one of my brothers to go climb in the coal mine, and of course he did. Came out
Hmm.
all black and nasty. But we got some USDA food. I remember that, and I tried this when I was older. When I was a kid, we used to guzzle corn syrup, literally. And I tried that when I got older. I'm like, how in the world did I do this? But I guess when you're hungry, you'll do anything. So in
Right?
19, huh? What's that? What was that?
I said correct, right?
Yeah,
So I'm
exactly.
gonna read.
Um,
I'm gonna read a piece. I said correct, right?
yep,
I'm gonna
that's
read a
correct.
piece. A little bit about your parents.
Is that on
It says
UPI?
Syracuse.
Syracuse.
I'm reading right now. Syracuse, New York. A couple with 10 children were sentenced Monday in state Supreme Court to 17 years to life in prison for allowing their month-old son to starve to death. Donald Sika, 33, and his wife Elizabeth, 35, were sentenced by Justice Walter Gorman on their conviction of second-degree murder in September 7, 1981, death of their son Nicola. The Onondaga County District Attorney charged they showed depraved indifference to human life by failing to properly feed their son, who weighed only 4 pounds 11 ounces at the time of his death, nearly a pound less than at his birth. Doctors testified he had died from malnutrition and dehydration. The psychics claimed they had not realized their son was starving, and Miss Sika maintained she had regularly fed her son and did not realize anything was wrong with until the day before the baby's death. Assistant District Attorney John Duncan charged there was no way they could watch their son continually lose weight and not realize something was wrong. Photographs showed the baby's skin was hanging off his body and he had open sores. The case is an enigma as to why the psychic caused the death of the infant, he said. Duncan said the couple had been receiving food stamps and could have received other financial assistance, so there was no reason why they could not have fed him. Neighbors had testified the baby had slept in a styrofoam cooler and the Sikas had no refrigerator in their home. The jury chose to convict the couple on the most serious charge. They could have been convicted of manslaughter or criminal neglect homicide, both of which means less prison time. The couple's 9 other children have been living with relatives. The Sikas had fled Syracuse after their son's death and lived in Toronto under assumed names from 1981 to 1985 before authorities found them last summer. The Sikas are expected to appeal, but they never did. How long was your mother and your father in prison?
15 years. I think they
Christain?
got out in 1990.
15 years
Can you
is
hear
what
me
they got.
now? Yeah. They had 17 to life, but they
I can
served,
hear you.
I think they might have served 17 years. I don't recall. I know they got out in 97, I think. So you can do the math. They went to prison in
Yeah.
81. And
Okay, so
the thing that's really interesting is we actually went up that summer before the FBI got them to visit my parents.
mhm,
My grandparents and my
mhm,
two younger brothers. Well, that's who lived with us. Well, all three of us lived in my grandparents' house. And also, that article's not accurate because my other brothers and sisters were in foster care, and they got adopted by a family. They didn't live with relatives. They got adopted. So
mm,
that part is not accurate. They got
right.
adopted by a family called the Hams. And actually, from what I understood from one of my brothers, he's the fourth one, that their adopted father, was just as bad as my grandfather was as far as physical abuse and verbal abuse and
Mhm.
things like that. He was exactly like my grandfather.
Yeah, so let's talk
So
a little bit about that. So your parents went to prison over the starvation of your little brother, that was 1 month old. Now, skin hanging from his body and stuff.
and
I
bed
can't,
sores.
and bed sores. I can't even imagine. I just can't even fathom.
Here's what happened. I don't know if I told you this, but I'll tell you this. I remember that it was in 1981 when we got a phone call, and back then, the phone just had regular. So man, I'd like to answer the phone. So I answered the phone, and it was the state trooper, the state police, and they said that Donald Sika is dead. So I was like a little bit shocked. I didn't really feel much, but I was a little bit shocked. This is before they got arrested. No, I'm sorry. This was actually not in 81. That's when they got extradited from Canada. It was actually 1979 when they first got arrested for it. So,
Mhm.
anyways, they called. I was 9 years old. The state troopers called, and I picked up the phone. They're like, "This is the state police. We wanted to inform you this is a Sika resident." I said, "Yeah, it is." So, well, we wanted to inform you that Donald Sika is dead, and that's my father's name. So we found out later on. I told my grandpa that. And he said, like, He's like, oh, well, he wasn't that bad of a guy or some bullshit like that. And then we found out that it wasn't Donald Sika, it was Nicola, but they called him Donnie Jr. We didn't even
Mm,
know they had a kid. We didn't even know. We found out that way. My mom and dad, we didn't have no, they had no interactions with us whatsoever.
mm,
And not because they weren't allowed, it's because they just didn't give a shit. Excuse my French, but they didn't care. And so they called and we found out that that's how we found out about the dead, my dead little brother. So we found out through the state police.
mm. So you just hadn't seen your parents in a while.
No, in 1 year, in a year. Actually, it was 1980 when they called, when the state troopers called, and they had $1 million bond because that was serious back then. I mean, you murder
Yeah.
your kid, that was
It's
something you never
serious
heard, and it
now.
was all
It's
over.
serious now too. It's serious anytime. It's
I
serious.
know it's very
But
serious, but
it's
back
very
then it
serious
didn't
now.
happen very as often as it does these days. I mean, it happened like, and it was all. I mean, like it's like I said, told you once before. We didn't have 255 channels. We had three, and
It-
we had an antenna, so it was on every single channel, every single night. It was plastered on the front page of the local newspapers. It was everywhere. So when I went to school, that was hell. I
yeah.
mean, I literally had people paint on my locker "baby killer," and they put a chopped up like baby doll and fake blood in a bag and put it in my locker. I mean, it was pretty horrible.
Mm,
Kids can be cruel. That's just the way they are.
yes. And so
And
let's go
me
from
being the oldest, I tried to be as protective as I could, and things
right.
on the home front were really awful as well. So
So let's go to when they got arrested and stuff. You ended up going with your grandfather, correct? So that was a relative at the time.
that was before they got arrested. What happened was one night this was 1977 because I remember this because my birthday had just passed and what I saw on TV. What happened was, well, I'm sorry, let me rewind a little bit. What happened, they also already had two children taken away. Two of my sisters were taken away in 1977 because they weren't taking care of them. And I remember sitting there, and I think we were at our aunt's house. I remember sitting there watching television. My birthday is in August, and it just passed by. And I was watching Elvis's funeral on a TV, and the police come knocking on the door, and they take my two baby sisters, Marie and Antoinette. This is a couple years before Nicola passed away. So they
Mm,
came and took them away, and I remember them taking my two babies, and they were in diapers. And I didn't even get to. I never even got to meet my two sisters in person yet. I mean, I've
mm.
seen them on Facebook and I've talked to them, but I've not got to meet them yet. And they have different names because they got adopted, but they got taken away when I was. I mean, I'm the only one in my family who remembers this stuff because you have to remember there's 2 years difference between me and my second brother, and there's 3 years difference between me and my third. So they didn't experience some of the things I've experienced because I'm the oldest.
Correct. And you was 10 when all this occurred, right?
Yeah, I was to about 10, yes. And in 81, I was 11, going to be 11.
11.
But I think I was in like sixth grade. So I
Mm,
was still in elementary school
right.
when it happened. So what happened was I ended up, my grandpa, I guess he just used that as an excuse to be who he was. And he actually touched me in inappropriate ways. He would beat me every day. He would yell at me. He threw knives at me. I mean, I'd run away and knives would like stick in the door. I mean, he beat me with an extension cord so bad one time that I ran up to our neighbors up the hill and they called the state troopers. And I'm sitting there watching and my eyes black so bad it's shut. I mean, he made it, the extension cord cut into my arms and my back and my legs. And he did that because I wouldn't flip a mattress because I told him I'm not doing it. So anyway, so he did that, and state troopers come, and I literally saw him pull out a wad of $100 bills, and give that state trooper a bunch of money to ignore it.
Mm,
So, yeah,
mm,
that was
mm.
fun.
So how long did you have to stay with him?
Um, I think I became a ward of the state when I was 15. I stayed with him till I was like 12, almost 13. 13. And I ended up getting put in foster care. The state took me out of his house.
Did the abuse continue until you left?
Yeah, it never stopped. It was every day.
And
I
then
remember one time my baby brother Jake, got in an argument with my grandpa, and he pushed my grandpa. My grandpa fell down, and automatically, I don't know what was wrong with me. I guess I just felt like I don't know how to explain it, but I actually picked up my little brother for pushing my grandpa and threw him across the room because it made me angry. Because I didn't want to hit my grandpa. I mean, I wasn't that kind of person. I just wanted him to stop, but he wouldn't.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you became protective over the person that was harming you.
Yep. I guess it's the Copenhagen syndrome, they call it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, the Department of Human Services came and took me out of his house after they had heard, because they were called. CPS was called a few times, not by me, but by some of my teachers, because they saw marks on my face, and someone had told one of my neighbors had found out about the abuse as far as the inappropriate touching, and they called the police, and they actually took me out of the house and put me in foster care.
So you was rescued out of that situation now we're into foster care at the age of 13. We
Yep.
at 13 now. Okay.
Yeah, I was about
So we're
13.
in
Yeah.
foster care. What happened in foster care?
The same thing.
How long was you in foster care?
Until I was 15. And that's why the state, I mean, they would bounce me from foster home to foster home
Mm.
because I wouldn't report the abuse, but other people would. And I mean, I literally was in a matter of 2 years, I was in 13 different foster homes and 10 different high schools.
Wow.
Yeah. So finally, when I was 15, the judge made me an emancipated minor, which means, for those who don't know, that means that they considered me an adult.
By the time you was 15.
Yeah, because I was a ward of the state at 13, and ward of the state means the state has custody of me. But with all the
Right.
abuse that I suffered and all the reports they got from other people that they saw what was going on, they knew what was going on, they made me an emancipated minor just to cover their own butt.
Right. Mm.
Yeah.
So when you
But,
became your own
and even at that point, even at 13 years of age, my last name is pretty unique. It's not very common. And even then, so what would happen is there was like the Goldens, which is another family, like I think it was when I was like 13 or so, that actually committed the same kind of crime. And they would
Mhm.
bring up the same stuff for my parents to compare the two cases. So it never went away. And then when they
Wow.
finally got out, even in the 90s, when they finally got out, it was all over the newspaper and all over the TV again then.
Oh wow. So you had to
Yeah.
relive it. You had to live it your whole life of what your parents did.
Know what I had to do, in all honesty, is I had to make up a bunch of stories so people didn't associate me with that. That's what I felt I should do. I mean, I know now that it was absolutely wrong, but back then I was a 15-year-old kid, and I was like, yeah, I made up stories. Well, my parents are in Europe, or that's not me, that's somebody else, and just stupid stuff like that.
Yeah. So we gotten to the age of 15. You're now emancipated. What happens next?
I went to a real, I don't know, I kind of like floated around different places for a while, actually for quite a while, until I was in my 20s. And then I met this woman. I won't say her name, but I met this woman in Atlanta. I was going to college at the Art Institute of Atlanta because I've always been an artist. Whenever I was a kid, that was the one escape I had, is I would draw pictures. I was just
Mhm.
like, because I felt it was kind of cool that I can sit down with a blank piece of canvas or a blank Bristol board and I can paint and I could draw something. I mean, actually, when I was in school, the last high school I went to, I won a national gold medal for a pencil drawing that I had done of a still life.
Nice.
Yeah. So I've always liked it. It always gave me an escape. It was something, but after a while, that didn't do what it used to do. I didn't give me the calm or the peace that it used to.
Right.
So I met this woman, and I lied to her because to be honest with you, that's what I was when I was in my 20s. I just wouldn't tell the truth. I'd make up stories because I didn't want people to know, and I didn't want to go through it. There's no excuse for it, but I didn't want to go through the same pains over and over again because it always seemed to happen, always seemed to come back. It doesn't make it right, but that's what I did. I lied. And I found out that I loved this woman, and I admitted to
Right.
her that I had lied. And she was upset, justifiably so, but we ended up getting married, and she got pregnant. And I have a son now who's 25. So, and I
Awesome.
haven't got to see him either. So, and I could have gotten her for kidnapping because she just disappeared and took my child. But I decided I didn't want to do that because I could have. Because even when we got divorced, we didn't even get divorced till 2017, and I was single for that entire time. He was born in 1996. The irony is, it was a year before my mom and dad got out of prison, and he was born in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
His name's Zach, and I found out through doing my own research because I'm, kind of a creep because I am a dad, and I found out that he's going to school for programming, which I thought is pretty appropriate because that he got from me. Anyways,
Right. So I also see after that, so you went to school for the art, you learned arts and stuff
I
like
didn't
that.
get
Then you
I
had to
didn't
learn
get
how
a
to teach
degree.
yourself.
I didn't get a degree. I
You
taught
didn't
myself because, to be
get a
honest with you, it
degree.
was
And then I
boring.
see that you're known for 94 feet for visual effects.
Yep,
I see that you're
yep,
known as a cinematographer.
yep.
Ray Harmon is.
When I was a
Um,
kid,
you're on
I
the
saw Star Wars.
IMDb. Hang on.
Yeah, IMDb.
I'm going
I'm an
to
accredited
bring
filmmaker.
this up. Hang on a second. Accredited filmmaker, yes. I'm bringing this up for us to be able to see this. All right, so we're going to go through this really quickly here. Um, see what this is. So this is the one that you did right here,
I did the visual effects for. Yeah,
94 feet.
it's a Christian film. The film didn't turn out that
It's,
great. I'm not really proud about how it turned out, but
it's on the IMDb.
yeah, you can actually watch it
It
on
turned out
Amazon.
good. Yeah, I'm trying to bring up some things right now. That's what we're doing right now.
That was actually an ad
Meet your
for the
new design
soft piece of software
documentation
that we
tool,
built, that my friend and I
made by
built from
designers
scratch.
for designers. Create any document type.
It was a commercial we were making to try to spread
share,
the word, if you will.
or collaborate easily. Better documentation equals better design. Get started
It's so cool.
right now.
Thanks.
I love it. That's really good. And then I think it's pretty cool that you went from all that to who you are now and what you've become, and like, the videos that you've made, and what exactly is it that they call you again, a videographer, or what is it on the IMDb, IMDb or whatever?
I'm a filmmaker, and I'm also a designer
Filmmaker,
and a
designer,
motion graphics artist.
motion graphics artist, like the videos, video effects, things like that.
Like the one, visual effects artist. The one that you just showed is all motion graphics done in After Effects.
Yeah.
Old rotary phone, yes, I'm old. But it was an old rotary phone, and it rang, and I picked it up, and they said, "Is this the Sika residence?" I said, "Yes, sir, it is. Who's calling?" "Well, Mr. Sika, this is the state troopers. Your parents are in prison for murdering your baby brother." And they were for 17 years. You want to talk about fear? I was terrified. Because the first thing that happened is when I went to school, people made fun of me like you couldn't imagine. And by that time, I had been separated. I have 9 brothers and sisters. 9. And I've been separated, so it was me and my the 3 oldest went to live with my grandparents. And guess what? There was God. Here I am. Look at me. I'm like, I don't know who you are, and I don't want to. So anyways, after a little bit of history there, and God is always faithful, and I was always stubborn. So he was actually knocking on my door through all the things that I've been through in my life. My grandfather sexually molested me when I was 10 years old. I was out catching fireflies, and I got a really bad sunburn on my back. So he was putting salve on my back, and that's when it happened. The state found out and took me out of his house. And that didn't make anything better, but there was God again. Here I am. Pay attention. Nah. Don't want to hear it. So then I go through 13 foster homes. There was physical, sexual, and mental abuse in every one of them. And they finally said, "Hey, we just got to make you an emancipated minor." I was 15. I was an emancipated minor. So when I went to high school, I was in 7 different high schools. Because while I would go there, things would come out about my parents. It was all over the news. You have to understand, back in those days, we didn't have 285 channels. We just had stones we looked at. No. We actually had 3 television stations. So whenever that stuff played, it played on every single station. And my last name is a little bit unique. It's not like my name is Christian Smith. So at any rate, so I'm going here and I'm going through this whole entire thing, and I was terrified of everything and everyone. And Mike, you know the Bible verse that says, "Hey, if you cannot love those you see, then how can you love the God you can't see?" Well, me and my wisdom, I said, "Well, God, I can't love anybody I see. So how can I love you? And how can you love me?" My truster was broken. It's just a fact. It happens. We're all broken vessels, and God uses the broken. So it was bad. It was really bad for a long time, for quite a few years. And then God was once again, "Here I am." I was like, I hate you. If you exist, I hate you. Why did I go through what I went through? Why? But you know what? You don't ask God why. Because you know what? He knows what he's doing. Whether you believe it or not. I'm living proof. So the first real seed that ever got planted about Jesus in my heart was a friend of mine that I was business partners with. And that man ended up pointing a loaded 9mm gun to my face, and I saw the shell in the barrel. And I did this. Because after that point, I wasn't afraid of anything. That's the gift God gave me. And the truth is, hey Garrett, you got the best. You got that Ty Cobb business? You got that Ty Cobb baseball card with the original signature? No. You know why? You can never, ever give what you do not have. And all I had to give at that point was anger and hate. But I didn't give it to anyone else because I didn't want to hurt anybody. I gave it to myself. I tried one time a very serious suicide attempt. I have a huge scar that I have to try to cover up every time. So if you're lonely, you feel alone, you feel like you want to hurt yourself, don't. Come talk to me, because I've been there, and I know what you feel like. And that's why we're all here. You know how many of these people in this place that love you? You're not here just to be an athlete. You're not here just to be an academic. You're not here to be anything, but you're here now because God put you here. Period. That's it. I am the sum of every decision I've made in my life. And so are each and every one of you. And if you finally get that grasp of how real God is, and how much he actually loves you, because if God can save me, oh, believe me, he can save you. Thank you.
And so anyway,
I just taught myself. I didn't have any classes. I just taught myself how to use it because it was something that was interesting. The reason why I do it, the reason why I got into that, into the art, into like motion graphics and 3D animation and things like that, is because when I was a kid, I saw Star Wars at the drive-in movie theater. Yes, I'm old, but I saw it at the drive-in, the first one. I said, wow, that's amazing. I want to figure out how they did that. So I figured out how they did those things and tried to learn how to do it.
right? That's awesome.
Once again, it was
Well,
an escape from the reality.
Right. Because it's virtual reality. You make it your reality.
I
You
could
make
make,
it whatever reality
that's
people
about
want.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
What editing and designing is making it into a creation, out of something into a creation. And
Yeah, I
a
mean,
lot,
I had an opportunity that blew when I was in high school. I don't know if there's any artists out there, but they'll probably know what the school is. But I actually got I actually talked to a university called Cooper Union
mhm,
for painting and drawing, not doing any digital things at all, because back then there wasn't any digital art.
mhm,
So I got talked to about from Cooper Union, and the only way you can get into Cooper Union is to get a fellowship. So in other words, they pretty much pay you to go to their school. And I got accepted, but I didn't follow through
right.
because I didn't want to be like my dad. I didn't want to be an illustrator and starve to death. That was my idea. I wanted to do graphic design because you can make a living doing
Mhm.
that.
I think you do a
So,
great job. And that's why
thanks.
I wanted to interview you from where you came from out of the 10 children and lost your brother and your parents at the same time, going through the
Actually,
judicial
two of my
system
brothers.
and how horrible it is.
uh,
We just touched base. Two of his brothers. Another brother died as well. Um,
he was 23, died of an
and
aneurysm.
Lord have mercy.
And he was, at that point, he was the youngest. And
Yeah,
let me see. Uh,
Lord have mercy.
my other brother, Nicola, if he was alive today, he would be 43.
Wow.
He'd be 10 years old. My mother died this past February, too, by the way.
Mm.
She was 76.
I'm surprised she didn't
And
spend the rest
my
of her life in prison.
she didn't, but my dad was so pathetic that he didn't mention any of us kids at all on her legacy.com memorial. So what I did was what Christian does. I went in there and added every single name of all my brothers and sisters and said, "Listen, we won't be forgotten."
Right.
My dad didn't even mention one of us kids, and there's 10 of us. Two are gone. There's 8 of us. He didn't mention any of us. So she died in February, and I found that
Doesn't
out by somebody else.
Right. Doesn't sound like he has a very good heart. So, Christian, now what is your next journey in life? What are you going to do now?
Whatever God has for me.
So now what happened? It's
I mean, I want to make
what
a film. I want to make a film, a Christian film, and I'm in the pre-production stages of it. I actually invested a lot of money, and there were people that were excited about it, but then they backed out. So just the way things go in that business.
it is.
I mean, I
Yeah,
made
it's
movie posters, and there was going to be a big fundraiser, and it just all fell through. But God's in control, not me.
amen. And at least you admit it fell through. Some people can't admit when something
Um,
falls apart.
Well,
Oh,
it
I never
happens.
apart.
Yeah, it fell apart. I mean, I actually spent a couple $2,500 of my own money to get it promoted and get it ready to go, and it actually ended up falling apart at the last minute. And I was upset. I was really upset about it, but
Yeah,
I got
I bet.
over it.
Right.
I
And
just don't like liars. That's
right.
my problem. I'm the kind of person, if I can't do something, I'll tell you I can't. I don't like to be late. It drives me crazy. I don't like people that are two-faced. I hate backstabbers. I think they're the weakest creatures that ever existed. They're cowards, and I can't stand a coward. That's just the plan. That's just the way it is for me. I cannot stand a backstabber because that's one thing I might have lied about my past when I was a kid, but I never backstab anybody because I can't stand it. If I got something to say to you, I'll say it to your face.
Right. Yep.
Because that's what I think a real man is. Because believe me, I've been surrounded by a bunch of non-men in my entire life, so I know what a non-man is.
Right. So, what do you think you're going to be doing? I mean, you haven't answered my question. So you went from, doing all this. You also went
Well,
through a time that we haven't talked about. You went through a time we haven't talked about, and
as
and
far
that's
as
where you
being
said
alcoholic,
that
yeah,
you're
I'm an
an
alcoholic.
alcoholic. Yeah, you're.
Yeah, I had 15 years recovery,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thankful for that. It's only because of God's grace, because every day it's a temptation, because it's an escape. I've always my entire life, the thing has changed because I'm 53 years old now, and the thing has changed about my life, and I guess it's the age wisdom is that,
Yeah.
hey, you make a mistake, you admit you made a mistake. Who cares? There's going to be consequences either way. Say, hey, listen, I made a
Right.
mistake, and I was
Amen.
always looking for an escape, and the escape never was real. It was just temporary fix to a permanent problem. So I finally realized there was this one time that I went. This would be right before I became sober. I went to this convention. It was called tragedies, which means 3 days. And I was told to go to this convention because I was in a Christian rehabilitation facility, which actually saved my life. But at that point, I didn't feel like it. So I'm like, I don't want to go to this. But I went anyways because I didn't believe in God at that point. And I said, if there's a God, I hate you. Why'd you let me go through the crap I went through when all these other scumbags just seemed to skate free? That was my philosophy. But
Right.
I went, and it changed my life. It opened up a door for me. And so there was one time we were sitting in it was at a campground, and there was this little chapel, and we went to church at that chapel every night. So this one night they bring in a bunch of full human size crucifixes. And I think there were probably about 40 of us there at this convention, and they're walked running in. There's a bunch of people carrying these crucifixes in, and I'm thinking, what the heck is going on here? So, anyways, and there was also a really large bonfire outside. So I'm like, what's going on? So, anyways, they did a message, and then they started handing out these heart shaped papers. So they said they gave us, I don't remember how many they gave me, maybe 10. And they said, listen, you need to write down who you need to forgive. And what those crosses are for, they're for each and every one of you to nail those names to that cross, and then we're going to burn them. So the thing I learned most of my life is forgiveness is more for you than it is for anyone else. So the first name I wrote down was my own, because I need to forgive myself, because after you go through things that you go through in your life, whether you'll admit it or not, it's easy to blame yourself, whether you do it consciously or through self-destructive behaviors or through both. You can blame yourself for all kinds of things that aren't your fault. I mean, what could I have as a 10-year-old kid have done to deserve what I got? Nothing. But it happened. And I had to realize that, there are other people in this world that are just not right. They're gonna hate, they're gonna judge, they're gonna make up things. It's just the way it is. And after 53 years on this planet, I learned one thing, is that no one can run space in my head unless I let them. I wish I'd known that when I was in my teens and 20s, but sometimes it takes a while for me to learn things, so I'm kind of stubborn. So that was when I had experience with Jesus, and I realized that me drinking and doing all those stupid things, it wasn't hurting anyone else. They don't care. It was hurting me. So when I finally realized I could forgive myself, I could stop doing my self-destructive, stupid crap. I decided not to lie anymore, not to make up stories, just to be blunt and honest, no matter what the consequences. And sometimes I'm going to tell you, it ain't very good. It ain't very fun, because people don't like it. They think you're an alien. But that's just the way things are. Truth is truth. There's one thing I used to tell my ex-wife all the time: the truth is immutable. In other words, is you can't change it. No matter how much you try, you can wrap a bunch of crap around it to try to hide it, because I know I was experienced in doing that. Or else you can just tell the truth and just let things go where they go.
Right. And that's one of the things I wanted to say that I admire about you, is that you're able to say the truth, mean your truth, stand up to your truth, and walk tall with your truth. And a lot of people cannot do that. And I'm one of them that can also do that. I can stand
There's
up to
one thing I
my
want to tell you though, that I don't want to correct you because I like you. You're a pretty decent person. I know you've been through hell too. But I'll tell you, there is no my truth. There's no your truth. There's only one truth. And that's as simple as it is. There is no versions of the
Mhm.
truth. It's just the truth.
That's right.
And
Yep.
people say my truth, your truth doesn't exist.
That's
My
right.
truth doesn't exist. Only the truth exists. Like the sky is blue. I don't care if you say it's green, it's yellow, it's orange. It can be at some times, but it's not. It's blue. Don't care if you say if it's purple. It doesn't matter if it's your truth or
Yeah.
not. It isn't the truth. That's all there is
Hmm.
to it. And
Right.
sometimes to say the absolute truth isn't easy. It's a
Right.
practice thing. It takes a lot because I'm not perfect at that either. I'm not going to tell you I am. I'll be a liar.
Right.
Sometimes I just don't say anything. I omit because you can still lie through omission, just the way it is. But
Right.
Jesus helped me with that. And it's kind of funny. The other thing that my relationship with God has helped me with enormously is I have no fear at all of anything.
Amen.
I'm not afraid of failure. I'm not afraid of success. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of being mugged, beat up,
Yeah.
nothing. I'm
Yeah.
not afraid of jumping out of a perfectly good airplane at 17,000 feet. I'm not afraid of anything anymore because fear is for children. That's just a fact.
Hmm.
And people are afraid of someone that tells the truth because then they're like, well, I know I'm not telling the truth, so I'm afraid I'll be exposed. So what they do is they lash out at you, and I don't really care. That's their problem. It's not mine. It's only my problem if I make it. And Betty, people lash out at you, and like I've been telling you, they can lash out at me all they want. I don't care. You mean absolutely nothing to me. And if you do mean something to me and you lash out to me, then we can have a discussion. But if you don't, I don't know you. I don't care what you think. Your
Right.
opinion of me means nothing to me.
Zero. Zero.
That's it. It doesn't. It doesn't
I'm still
because
gonna
you
say
don't know
good.
me. I don't know you. And the same thing, the inverse opinion of you, if I don't know you in an intimate way, not a sexual way, but in an intimate way that I don't know you, your life, and I haven't known you for a long time, or you're not really my friend, then my opinion of you should mean nothing to you either. Just that simple.
Hmm.
Opinions are like assholes. We all have one. It's, I'm
Isn't that
sorry. It's just the truth.
isn't that the
It
truth?
is.
So this is what I would like to say
And
is, Christian,
unfortunately, the
thank
same thing comes out of both ends usually.
right. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with me and being open and honest and talking about honesty and talking about God and talking about addiction and talking about
Yeah.
living a life of your parents for over your head of most of your life, and then being able to create dimensions that can come alive is amazing. I did ask you if you would do that process for me. I would like to show people, just some of the things that he's able to do. But this is to let all of you know that we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all go through different things. But at the end of the day, God's got you. And God completely changed his
Amen.
life. God's completely changed my life. I'm not that screaming crazy woman anymore that I used to be. But this interview is not
That's a
about
good girl. You don't need to be.
right. This interview is not about me. This interview is about Kristen. And
And
I just
there's one last thing I do want to say. If I can give the world a piece of advice, there's one piece of advice. You can never, ever give what you don't have.
that's right.
Period.
Right. Yep. That's right. And you can never, ever, ever get back time.
Nope.
And
That's the
that's
most precious commodity around.
Yes,
You can have all the money in the world, that can be replaced, but your time can't be.
that's right. And that's why I always say that time is money with me, meaning that when I'm up and I'm working and I'm doing something, I'm making money. You know what I mean? I'm making money. I'm making money. That's what people should realize. Get up and do it. Work, work, work. Make your money, make your coin. And nobody should hate on you for how you make your coin as long as you're making your coin and you're doing it decently, you know. Do it decently, but do
Yeah.
it your way, whatever, you know. I'm not here to judge anyone. And Christian, I thank you for being on.
I'll tell you one little secret that I've learned. I've had lots of money and I've had no money, like
Amen.
homeless living. And I've lived in some of the fanciest places. I've had a Porsche. I've had all the things. And I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, all I'm really doing is sweeping up garbage at construction sites. And I'm more content now because it's a very simple job. I do what I do. I know what I'm going to get paid.
Yep.
I'm more content now than I am, frankly, at this point, being on a film set because there isn't the same kind of pressure. There aren't all the
Right.
opinions. There aren't all the people that are trying to tell you how to do your job. I mean, it's not nuclear science to sweep up a floor and pick up garbage.
Right.
And does that make me a less than?
No.
Whatever you guys want to think, that's fine. But if you don't work, I was told there's a couple of things my grandpa taught me that are true. If you don't work, you don't eat. If you don't eat, you don't shit. If you don't shit, you're gonna die. That's
Yep.
the way it is. I mean, you have to be practical, and sometimes you have to swallow your pride and say, "Oh yeah, I can't walk around and say, oh yeah, I'm a credited filmmaker. I should be making millions of dollars." No, that means nothing. It's just something I was lucky enough and blessed enough to be able to do. Doesn't ending.
Yeah.
The only thing in this life that I strive to be is understanding. I've been rich. I've been poor. I don't want either one of those. Right in the middle is fine with me. I don't want to be rich. I don't want to be famous. I don't. Because why do you think so? Once again, if I was, all that crap about my parents that I had nothing to do with would come up again and be in the paparazzi gossip columns. That's the truth. I mean, I would deal with it better now than I would back then, but it's still not something I want to deal with
Right.
because I'm not a perfect person. I never will be perfect.
None of us are.
I know you're sorry, but do you apologize?
But you need to, or Victoria, I'm not letting you out right now. But I thank you so much, Christian, for coming and interviewing with me. It was awesome. I haven't got to have
Thank
an
you,
interview
Betty.
in 2 years. I love chatting with you. I hope we touched on base on everything we could, and we'll probably have a second interview, maybe a little bit more in detail. I'll ask my subscribers what they think if they would like to hear more from you on detailed of parts of your life. And mainly, we're doing this because a shout out to you to wanting to help other people to reach out to God, our Heavenly Father, and to know that
Hmm.
you can be happy just working a normal life and not live the luxury lifestyle that you don't even feel like you fit in most of the time. Um,
Right.
there's so much life than money. And you can also enjoy yourself better, you know. And that's what Christian is pretty much spreading is that you can achieve anything you want to achieve and you can be on different platforms and stuff as somebody. But when you humble yourself and you give yourself to God, like he has, because he wanted off the alcohol, he wanted no problems, he got rid of the wickedness. His ex wife was a Wicca that practiced black magic, he said. We didn't even touch base on that. But it's took a lot to get to where he is right now, and I'm just really I'm really happy that he wanted to do an interview with me. done a few other interviews, but he don't really do interviews. So I thank you for that, Christian, being able to come and interview with me. And anything you would like to say to anybody, because when this premieres, I would you be in the comments so that you can like answer their questions if they want you to. I'll be in the comments because I will be premiering this.
That sounds good. I'll do that. But you have to
Is there-
understand that if someone says something negative, I'm just going to ignore them
Well, of course,
because they're not worth my time.
right. We do that in real life. We do that in virtuality life, especially.
And
You
remember,
pick it.
time is of the essence.
That's right. Can't get back time. Time you can't get back.
Nope.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with Christian and I, and my first interview. And what a way to kick it off! What a way to kick it off! And God is great, and definitely got to have God in your life, in your heart, in your soul, to make it in life. I don't care. The people that are rich, they're sorrow. They're drowning in sorrow. They're not happy. The people that are materialistic are not happy. I'm right in the middle, and I love every minute of it, and I'm happy. And I still strive to be better. And that's what Christian's here to say as well. He strives every day to just get better. But I thought it would be cool to hear his story. And because his artwork is amazing and him as a person is amazing. And I thought he had a message that, would help each and every one of you. So that's why I invited him to come and have an interview with me. And yeah, so anything else you want to say, Christian, before I close this?
The good thing about you, Betty, is you've got some flotation devices.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Anyways, you can go
Really
you can be in a
nice.
plane crash as long as it's over water. You'll be all right.
Do you think
Lord have
so?
mercy.
You think
I don't
so?
know.
All right. Until
Anyways,
next time.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you inviting me on. That's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. We'll have to do it again sometime.
All right, send me that video.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And that was my first video in 2 years. And yeah, let me know if you would like us part 2 in detail of anything we touched on tonight in Christian's life, or anything you would like to say to him. He will be in the comments on premiere night. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'll see you. Mwah. I'm out.